Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Keeping It Real with Marie and Lionel and Alimayu, who usually helps us co-host, just in case our real co-host isn't with us for the rest of the show. We do have a special invited guest this evening, the Honorable John A. King, MP, Andrew King, of course, who is joining us this lovely evening. We missed out on him last week, Monday, and we wanted to make sure, I especially, from one Mayborn to another, wanted to give him a toast. The bottle is gone already, but I want to
Thank you.
toast a belated happy birthday to you, Honorable John the King, MP.
Thank you.
Cheers. I hope you
Thank you very
enjoyed
much.
it.
Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed it and had a lovely birthday. Of course, the month isn't finished at all. We will continue to celebrate onwards. Yes?
Of course, of course. I am, I had a wonderful day itself, but I celebrate for the rest of the year because you're a year older, not a month older.
That's correct.
Correct,
But we,
sir.
we, we
That's
got
correct.
a lot more to celebrate. Now, on our show, which you would have, we earlier today actually, we had the
Of
wonderful
course.
Mr. Philip Scantlebury, who we all know to be Philip Seven. And he did mention your name, and I think you would have been, quote unquote, one of his mentors or individuals who saw him within the limelight of entertainment. And it was reminiscent on the fact that when we spoke about music this morning, that we would be speaking a bit on music this afternoon as well. Um, we, with our show, we normally touch on certain aspects pertaining to local happenings and international happenings. But because this evening we wanted to make it as special as possible, because for us, we like to take the journey with our guests. And that journey is all about John King. Now, music has evolved over the years. And with music evolving, we have different individuals who contribute to the music industry in Barbados. Culture is a very important aspect to our music. And we also think of how we bring across our culture in different genres, of course. Now, so that we get a little nitpick on who John King is, um, originally, we know, like myself, we're what Bages would say foreigners, but we don't look at that word at all. We would say that Mr. King was born over and away. So let's begin with your journey from over and away before we hit Barbados. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I think you would have a lot of, how should I say, memorable times and, mention of your parents, of course, who are Barbadians.
Well, thank you very much. Memorable, very much so. It's almost like yesterday. I remember vividly. The first 6 years of my life were spent in England. They were very difficult, not because of my family, because I had great family and relatives all around. But imagine being young and black in Britain in early 60s, 70s, late 60s, 70s. Um, I was exposed to some of the bad parts of human behavior. And we talked
Mm,
specifically of racism at a very
mhm,
tender age. So I can
mhm,
remember
mhm.
going into my primary school at that particular point in time. I have people shout at me, the gollywog, the black chocolate, this and
Oh
the
no.
next, all sorts of things. And I believe my parents, in their wisdom, wanted to move my sister and I out of that environment, because the truth is, growing up in that type of environment, I'm sure that they would have seen a lot of young black men in particular find themselves in conditions where they were either going into prison in large numbers, or going into mental institutions in large numbers. And I believe that my parents felt that it would have been better for us to have a Barbadian upbringing, and to be in a place where we would be accepted for who we are, based on and not be judged based on our skin color and all the other things that would have been happening at that particular point in time. So December 1970, I arrived in Barbados with my sister, and from there we spent 4 years with my grandparents. Well, one of them, my grandfather, he died before we got to Barbados. But we spent 4 years in St. Philip, Ebenezer, St. Philip, with my grandmother, aunts, and family members like that, until my mom then decided she was going to come back to Barbados, and she came back to Barbados, and then we moved from one part of St. Philip, not too far away, just up the road into Church Village. And that's where most of my life was spent. And I guess my molding as a Barbadian and my molding as an individual was in that village, And it was one where you could be you. You had good neighbors, and I was also a very creative kind of person. I think I got that from my mom. She's not only does she sing, but she's a cook. She does needlework, and she did just a whole range of things that she would do to provide for her two kids, whilst my dad stayed in England working. So on that creative side, I always had a love for music, and again, I thank my parents for that, because as a child I remember very much listening to from Nat King Cole to Dionne Warwick to whatever else, Sparrow, whatever they were listening to, I was a part of it. Hymns, gospel music, everything, classical music. So I had a love for music on the whole from an early age. And so when I was here in primary school, before my mom came, again, another set of people that I have to thank would be my teachers at Ebenezer Primary. They found that I was always in the back of the class singing or humming or something or the other, and they never really. And no, the good thing was that they didn't suppress it. Yes, people would try to suppress you and say, well, look, concentrate on this or whatever. What they were able to do with me was to take that energy and channel it into doing things like school choir and performing at the concerts. And then I had the opportunity to do children's party with Auntie Olga at about 8 years old.
So going back.
You're way back. And I remember that too like it was yesterday, because even when she was alive, she always reminded me that I was just such a brave little fellow that on that interview, I mean, at 8 years old, I was so full of myself that I was asking her how come she didn't know John King. So she always reminded me of that. We used to have a good laugh at that. But that's where it started for me in terms of that. But you wouldn't believe it that in my teens, people knew me more as a break dancer than a singer. And the singing part of me was only done quietly in the background. Believe it or not.
Dancing.
Oh, yeah. So all that stuff.
So all that stuff. Shaking a leg before you came on.
Oh yeah,
breaking
that leg.
I'm telling you,
breaking a leg, man.
It's probably why my knees hurt so much today. but yeah. So I see all that just to say that I always found myself involved in creative things in the arts,
Yeah.
And it was interesting because going into the law school, 1974, everybody wanted. There was this expectation that everybody is supposed to be either a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. That particular point in time, I think I was one of the first people who decided that I was not interested in any of those things, and that I would just be me. Two things I
Right.
love: people
Mm-hmm.
and arts. And so when I finished school, I went straight into the Calypso Tense the following year,
Mm-hmm.
1982. And then
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
following year, 1983, I was
Mm-hmm.
fortunate enough to land my first job as a supervisor at the Government Industrial School for Boys. And when I went into that environment, it was a
Mm-hmm.
time when there were boys who were even older than myself, who
Wow.
I was supposed to be in charge of and trying
Mm-hmm.
to help. So
Mm-hmm.
that in
Mm-hmm.
itself is a great experience for me as an
Mm-hmm.
individual. It gives me the opportunity to see a side of Barbados and another side of human beings that was much of an eye opener for me, because at one point in time, I would be walking around and probably figuring that I was probably one of the poorest people in the world. You
Mm-hmm.
come along, you don't have a lot of stuff. You see other people, especially if you're going into schools like
Yeah.
in the early days, you go into law school and you can see where, okay, other students have access to information that you don't have access to, because, well, there wasn't internet or anything like that at that time, but they had
Right. Right.
like big encyclopedias and all the things that guys could go and study with and all these things, and you'll be there like, oh man, how do we get my hands on
Struggling.
this information?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
learn
Very
from
different.
struggling.
Very
you,
different. Yeah.
I gotta do it for you. You gotta learn from the scratch, and then too, as you can see, I'm wearing glasses. I started to wear glasses by the time I was about 10 years old.
So
I
did
had a little
I.
accident.
So did I.
I had,
So did I.
but I think I had a little accident,
All we
and
seeing was
you start
Mm-hmm.
to squint on one side, and
Mm-hmm.
then I gone down. So you had all of these things to
all about
deal
that.
with, but I
Mm-hmm.
think what was one of the most eye-opening things for me, and me up to today, I still fight it as much as I can. Having
Mm-hmm.
come from England, one of the things that my parents would have drilled into my head and the head of my sister was that when you get to Barbados, things are going to be different. So
Yeah.
people are not going to probably dislike you just because of your skin color. They're not going to insult you. That you're in a majority or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
what was interesting for me is going into law school. Remember again, like yesterday, very first day, and having to see at that particular point in time a huge division of people. So, and a lot of people don't like to talk about it because it becomes uncomfortable for them. But I like to talk about it because I think if we don't address these things, we continue the same way over and over. So, for instance,
But
I give a
we're
classic
keeping it
example.
real. We're keeping it real.
Yeah,
We
we
keep
keep
it
it real.
real.
We keep it real. You
Yeah.
had all of these divisions. So
Mm-hmm.
let me just give you a glimpse of what it was like, and just bear in mind that I am still a young person who is coming out of one environment with a different
Into another.
expectation into
Yeah.
another with
into
a
another
different
way.
Yes.
expectation, right? So
Mm-hmm.
You got it covered.
when I get into law school, this is the first thing I encountered. One, all the white students congregated on one side of the field.
Mm-hmm.
Two,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all of the almost half white type children congregated on another side. Three, all of the children who were dark skinned, but their parents were, let's say, doctors, lawyers, managers, whatever, they're congregated on another side. Then you had
Wow.
so many different divisions till it got down to who was from the country and who was from
Mm.
the city. And I couldn't understand at that particular point in time, like
Mm-hmm.
what was this all about?
Mm.
you know,
Yes.
but there was
Yes.
so many divisions that for me it was just uncomfortable. I kid you not. And
Yes.
I went back home to my mom and I asked her to actually take me out of school and move me to somewhere else. And
Wow.
she did. She didn't, because I think she felt, large school at that particular point in time. So people, have a certain feeling about it. But it was
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable. But
Mm-hmm.
the good thing about it is when I concentrated more on the school motto more so than the actual reality of how the school was at that particular point in
Right.
time. He
Right.
said there because they think they can. It's in Latin. And people don't speak Latin. I won't repeat it in Latin. But that simple quotation has been the basis upon which I live my life every possible day. Knowing that once you think you can do something, you can actually achieve it. It doesn't matter if people see you for your skin color. It doesn't matter if people see you for what class they put you in. It doesn't matter how people see you for your academic achievement. None of those things matter. What matters is that you, the individual, have to be able to know within yourself that you're capable of doing X, Y, whatever it is, and apply yourself to it.
Yeah.
All of the
Correct.
other things,
Agreed.
all of the other things, all of the people on the outside, the doubters, the haters, the whatever else you want to call them, they're irrelevant. And as
Correct.
soon as
Correct.
as you hold on to that power for yourself, and you don't transfer it to other people, you have won half of life's battle.
Yes. Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Agreed. Agreed.
That is
Agreed.
so beautifully said, because when you really think about it, there are lots of people like myself. When I first came to Barbados, the thing about it, they have this term red, red skin, brown
But
skin,
look at me.
and I think it has a lot to do with the cultures and their norms, which are so different, especially coming from the UK and Europe. And when you leave that kind of livelihood, it's like a culture shock. So people who don't understand what a culture shock is, it is really a culture shock, because you're not accustomed to some of the things they may say or do. It's not even just food, it's everything around you. When you spoke about village life, yeah, quote unquote, people want to call it community, but it's really village life, because we would know about going, Miss Jones, I sending
Correct.
John over by you for some sugar. You might not be able to go in St. Philip. The little mini mart might be a little further away. So you got to go with Miss Jones for some sugar or some salt. And in those days, they didn't have what we now know them as palins. People had their backyards. You go across by Miss Jones or go across by Miss Brathwaite. It was a totally different community. And that was different to get accustomed to. Because if you're living in Europe or the UK, you had a lot of garden walls and picket fence. It was very different from Barbados life, really and truly. When you got here, for me, one of the things I had to get accustomed to, and I've heard my family or friends come, oh, what's that noise? The crickets. The crickets. So you're trying to go to sleep at night, you're hearing beep, 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 and you're wondering, what the hell is that? And all night, and it's distinct in your ear. So over years now, you don't hear it, because you've grown so accustomed that they're
That's
no
not good.
longer
Yeah.
in your they're no longer in your ear. But then when you hear people come and say, oh, what's that noise? Oh, they've been going on all night. They couldn't get any sleep. And you're saying to yourself, noise, what noise? I didn't hear anything.
It's
You
true.
know.
It's true.
So
True. But
again, like you, I grew up with a granny. You learn all the history of the island. You get to understand the history, the good and the bad. So it,
and the
it
indifferent.
affords you, yeah,
Yeah, and
but
indifferent. I was not
and
going
it,
to say that.
and it
And the
affords you to
indifferent.
have a wider perspective of
Yeah.
why we have, quote unquote, in one of your songs, the mother country. Um, it enlightens you a bit more and educates you for things down the road, as I would say. Now, you have touched on most of the things we probably would have hit you with in terms of question. You were through the gates running. Um, I was reading an article, and it does speak clearly of you. And I smiled while I was reading it, because it said he was a fresh young face, armed with exceptional voice and original point of view when he hit the Barbados calypso scene in 1982. Merely a jump off point where his versatility and distinctive style, John King fast emerged as one of the Caribbean's most imaginative and proficient artists. It states your approach to music, from his work ethics and stage persona to his compositions, rhythm styles, cannot be assigned to any given musical format. Now, that to me is a mouthful because
Correct.
when one thinks
That's
of
the
John
one.
King, people wouldn't think only of calypso. As the years went by, you dabble a lot in different genres, and you have always been a versatile entertainer. Always. So much so you were able to cap not one, but two crowns. One in 1986 as Johnny Maboy with tribute to
Mhm.
the skipper and congratulations. And in 1994, John King, which is my favorite, I'm back. And of course, the fevered one, Jump and Wave. I mean, Jump and Wave was always a favorite. That became synonymous across the globe, just like how you would have had Spice with Conga Line and you had Arrow with Hot Hot. When you went into music from such a young age, what was your path like? Did you think you would have reached such caliber as a well, entertainer? I don't want to stick to calypso. Entertainer. Do you think when you started your journey, you would have gone to this point?
Yeah, I think I planned it from day one. And I always try to live my life in a way that people who might be disadvantaged, like I was, could see some sort of hope and some sort of pathway to achieving certain things. And so one of the things that I always wanted to do was one, to show people that you don't have to be pigeonholed. The human being is more than just a calypsonian or a jazz artist or a gospel artist or whatever box people want to put you in. The human spirit and the human ability goes beyond boundaries. And so that's the reason why I never tried to be, as they say, a specialist in any format of music at all. And
Mm-hmm.
so I try to prove to people that if you can sing, if you can interpret music, if you can
Mm-hmm.
be a storyteller at the same time in it, it is
Mm-hmm.
possible to reach different people in different genres quite easily. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that that for me was one of my biggest accomplishments. But I always thought of my music as a way to speak on various issues, be there race, be it inequality, be it
Yes.
politics, be it
Yes.
social issues or whatever. I found that that was the easy way to get people to want to listen, to get
Mm-hmm.
people to think about some of
Mm-hmm.
the issues that were facing us, and also it put you in a position where even if people didn't agree or whatever, they'll just see it as a song and move on.
Yes.
Um,
Correct.
Yes.
which, which, which,
Yeah, every
which in itself is unfortunate, but at least the song itself can speak to wider audiences than just you
Mm-hmm.
being, let's say, for instance, a politician, as I am now in a small
Mm-hmm.
country. Your
Yes.
music
correct,
gives
correct, correct.
you to speak to the world in a complete different
Mm-hmm.
way.
Yeah, music travel.
Mm-hmm.
Music
So
Without,
travel
let
far
without
than
judgment.
okay. Let's hit on something. I'm going to bring back some memories for Mr. John King here for him. Let's see if he remembers this.
1983.
That's what you call a slim version of John King.
I'm telling you.
ah boy.
This song, what was it? Abensky? Now, when I came
Kamensky.
across, yeah, when I came across this song, I said, but I don't remember this song. Tell us a little bit about this in 1983 when you broke out.
19, yep, 1983. This was at the height of what they call the Rebel Tour, when we had West Indies cricketers going to South Africa to play cricket.
Mm-hmm. Right.
At that time, remember the world had a ban on people going to South Africa to trade or to do
Yeah.
anything. And
Yes. Yes.
I thought that was an interesting time. The gentleman Pomensky, he was the one who was coming down, organizing the rebel tour, meeting with our people and stuff, and getting them to go to South Africa. I had my own views on
Mm-hmm.
it, which I expressed in the song, because I always felt that if we
Right.
were telling professional sportsmen not to go to make a living, you have to provide the alternative. You can't just say to
Yes.
people, well, don't go to work, but you don't provide an alternative for them. And that is exactly
Yes.
what we did here in the Caribbean. And so I thought,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't put that in this particular song, but my songwriter at that time, Anthony Waldron, we just wanted to look at the situation itself and make our own comments on it from the viewpoint of the man in South Africa.
Ah, okay. Wonderful.
But
Because
that's
when I saw
daunting
this,
though.
I was saying,
Boy,
this is joking.
that is daunting
When
thing.
I looked at it, I said, wait. I got to pull this into my show because I'm sure a lot of people are looking back and saying, wait, which tent was this? For the folks who are watching, which tent was this?
This was the Conqueror's Calypso tank, 1983. I remember it well.
Okay. Who did you
Oh
perform with
boy.
in the Conqueror's tent at that time?
At that time, you had Addington Ford, you had Foul Foot, you had
Oh,
Sheriff.
foot.
Yeah, Foul Foot.
Mm-hmm.
In
Mm-hmm.
fact, he was responsible for getting me involved in Calypso. His name is Owen Beckles.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic singer, performer, and songwriter. He was the one who really got me involved in Calypso, and I'd be eternally grateful to him.
Mm-hmm.
You had a young guy by the name of Traya, excellent singer.
Mm-hmm.
You had Rocky. You had Informer, Commoner Blackie. I remember most of the guys that sang at that particular point in time, and those were the early days. And to be quite honest with you, those were the most enjoyable days because everyone
Ah,
was so just about the calypso. It wasn't
yes.
about the competitions or on. Although we still went into the competition thing, but it was more about the calypso and the community because our
Right.
tank was one of two tanks that came out of St. Philip at that particular time, and it kind of like
Mm-hmm.
galvanized the people of St. Philip to follow them
Mm-hmm.
and bring what we would call country people to the forefront.
I like it. Country people to the forefront. Now,
Yo, that
when you
does not look
spoke
like
about,
daunting at all. Like,
I know, when we talk about tents, the tent life. Now,
Mhm.
you mentioned Lodge School. One of the individuals who I think may have been in Lodge was Mr. Fingal.
Yes, he
How
was.
did you at any
Taught,
point in
taught me.
time?
He taught me for 1 year. I had 1 year of him when he came,
But now you
and
have
when it was
many
time for
years
me,
of him.
yeah, when it was time for me, he was trying his best to see if he could get me to come back to school. But to be quite honest, I had originally planned as soon as I finished law school to actually go back to England. I was
Right.
going to go back and further my studies and try to push my music career because I felt I would have a better chance to be a quote unquote superstar in England
Mm-hmm.
than I would have being
Right.
here in the Caribbean.
Right.
But
Right.
but I was the only one here. And I guess even though I was a child, I would say I was still the only male person around my mom as she had come back
Right.
from England to
Mm-hmm.
be with my sister and I.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided that I would stay because my sister was adamant that she was going back as soon as she finished school. And then if I had gone and my sister had gone, then both of us she would have come home to take care of us and we would have gone back to England. So I stayed. My sister went. And and then that's why everything else evolved the way it did, So you have the best laid, but sometimes you have to see the bigger picture. And for and you would know it as a woman,
Yes.
boys usually cling close to their moms, especially if they've made the kind of sacrifices that you expect. Me, my mom was young, But she could, I mean, if she had stayed in England, God knows where she would be today. But she chose to come home and be with her two kids. So for me, it
Yeah.
was like, you know what? I have a duty to stay and be here.
Yes. Yes. That's so true. Very, very true. Now, when you do you write most of your songs, or people bring songs to you?
I do a bit of both. You know,
Okay.
for years, my songwriter would have been Anthony Waldron. Um,
Mm-hmm.
he is a lyricist, whereas I am more of a melody maker and how should I put this? Almost like an editor. So that
Okay.
he would write words and I would take them, twist them around, change them, do what I need to do with them to fit them into a melodic lines or into a framework that I could express it myself. So he
Right.
has been a writer for many years on many songs, and
Right.
I even then took the opportunity then to study his way of writing and
Mm.
learn things from him for myself before I broke
Oh,
out into writing full fledged for myself.
right. Now, when we talk about writing, when things come into your mind, one particular song, of course, in 1986 when you won the crown, tribute to the skipper.
So that was all.
How did you come up with that?
But that was all Anthony. You know, he and I had a conversation, and he said that he had this idea to write this song, a tribute to Barbados, to that's the captured government again, and
Mm-hmm.
he wanted me to sing it. So I told him, okay, just you write the song, bring the words. I will think he brought the words. I looked at it, I looked at it, and I looked at it, and then I said, okay, I'll start singing it. But what has always been my technique, so to speak, is I tend to if you give me lyrics, I would just recite them. I would just talk them as if I'm having a conversation with you now. And
Right.
then I work towards a melodic line. So how do I get this across to you without
Mm-hmm.
breaking the conversational aspect of it, so that you don't get lost in it just being this pretty song, but that you
Mm-hmm.
actually have a conversation with me.
Yeah, correct.
And so that's what I did then, and that's what I do all the time. You give me a song, I speak it all the time. So I say under the Union Jack, you know, and I under the Union Jack, under the Union Jack, under the Union Jack, and then it moved from there. So
Right.
that has been the way that I've dealt with those things for years.
But I think when you came out on stage with that particular song, I actually had the video, but for some reason my volume wasn't working on it. And when I think back, um, and listen to it, it makes you think about the actual individual you're singing about. And it kind of resonates a bit when you really, the skipper. And there was somebody who did a song, a Trinidadian, I can't remember his name right now. It reminded me of the other song where he was talking about, oh
Well,
gosh,
you're talking about Gypsy and his song
yes,
Sinking Ship.
yeah, sinking ship. So
Yeah.
they had some similarities, and I was there saying they're different, but they
We, we,
had some form of
we
similarity in
use,
storytelling. In
yeah,
storytelling,
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
So,
that was. But
so,
go
so
ahead.
what we both did was to try to paint the picture of a voyage and use
Yes,
the analogy of a ship to
yes,
describe that voyage. So whereas mine
yes.
is the voyage of the individual, Gypsies
Hmm.
was more the voyage of Trinidad
Yes,
politically. Yeah.
yes,
Correct.
yes, 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 yes. Now,
I agree, I agree.
you went off the scene for a little while. And let me tell you, that year, a lot of people were following you because you took a little sabbatical. You came back and you hit everybody with this. That everybody in the conversation was saying it. And they were always coming back.
I'm back. Let's go. Come with it.
Uh, we had to come out with a bang, boys.
What had me when John came on the stage in a suit and a bow tie? I said, "Wait!" From 1986 to 1994, did you sit and think about this song?
Uh, Not really. Again, Anthony and I, we put our heads together and came up with this. It was appropriate because Jessica and Judy, what I was trying to do at this particular, I wasn't even thinking about winning a crown. I was just trying to see if I had the confidence to go back onto a calypso stage in a competition and not
Really?
feel. Yeah, remember I had probably. I have to say this. I have had in calypso in Barbados probably the roughest experiences of any of the calypsonians ever. I give a classic example, right? So
Mm,
people always talk about 1988 when people thought that I should have won and Rita won the crown.
right.
Nobody or few people knew about the year in front. And these things will play on your mind, especially if you're a young person trying to find your way in the world. In 1987,
Hmm.
at the end of that Calypso contest, Bumba was announced as the winner.
Right.
About, I would say about the week after the finals, I got a telephone call from the NCF
Hmm.
suggesting that there was a problem in the tabulation of that particular competition and that
Oh,
I would have won that competition if there wasn't a mistake made in the tabulating. And they said to
what?
me, yeah, 1987. And they said to me, look, it's already done. We don't want to have to change it. We don't want to have to go through all of this noise or confusion or anything else. We will actually pay you the same way as if you're one, we give you the extra money or whatever, and we will just let it go. Fine. And the kind of person I am, I was like, fine, it's not a big deal. These things happen. We move
Hmm.
on.
Hmm.
Well, this is 1987. But to come back then in 1988, having not received the money, first thing first, I didn't make
From
any noise about it.
1987. From
Right.
1987.
In 1987, I didn't receive it. I didn't win the crown. Then it come back in 1988, and to have what I still consider to be one of the most unusual things ever. Because at the end of the competition, in 1988, when I was standing up backstage, all of the media and everybody, as they usually do when people win the crown, came and had their cameras and everything in front of me, and they were ready to have a conversation with me. And before you could say Jack Spratt, I saw a signal come in, and it said, and prior to that, there was all of these rumors circulating around the competition that year that if you
Hmm.
go and stay, you need to drop out of the competition because it's already pre-planned and Rita is going to win, and all of these things were coming at me during the week. And I said, no, I don't operate like that. I am going to go, I am going to perform, and whatever happens, happens. So when you get all of those things adding up, you got 1987, 1988, and I had said once that I wanted to be the first person to win 3 crowns back to back. And I'm a
Right.
young man, putting in the work,
Right.
doing all these things.
Right.
And then something like
Hmm.
that, you can imagine what it does to a young person. So
Yes.
get back on stage in 1994. It took a monumental effort because even going into the environment, all of these things would keep flooding back. So the
Hmm.
sabbatical really about me being able to find my own center and to start all over.
Right. Right.
Right. That's what I
Right.
was saying. Because I was here saying in my mind that the sabbatical was based to find yourself again. Because I mean,
Yeah,
as you stated, those things can play on your mind heavily. Because when you go from one year, you to say you win, but you ain't get the money. And then it goes another year now where because everybody know that John King's the winner.
Yeah,
But then
yeah.
they just
I think,
pull the chair from right under you. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So
And a lot of people
if
with
and if what you're
expectation.
saying
A
and
lot
if
of
what you're
people's
saying is true
expectation.
in terms of the rigging of the show, in terms
Oh
of
Lord,
they saying
don't
that
say
this person
rigging.
will win before, you understand what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
That makes it
yeah. It
really
makes
bad in terms of the calypso scene.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
but you think this, guys. The thing is this, right? Whenever there are calypso competitions, you can always have people talking all sorts of things they don't
yeah,
know, and people would try to put a blemish on things as they go along. So I don't really pay much attention to those things, but I don't. But at the same time, you don't ignore the fact that these are things that people are saying. You know
yeah,
what you know what I
yeah.
mean.
But you
But
can't
again,
really. You
but
can't.
you can't. You know, I mean, I
Yeah.
have I've been in competitions where I did a classic 1995. I
Mhm.
again, here you are, 1995, and I suppose that people felt that here it was that I would have a good chance of winning the crown again in
Yeah,
1995.
yeah,
Would you
yeah.
believe? Would you believe that someone wrote a letter to CBC of all places, telling them to tell me not to come to the National Stadium, that they were going to shoot me if I got on stage because I was singing a song called When Black Ain't Beautiful. Was When
What?
Black Ain't Beautiful? Yeah. When Black Ain't Beautiful, yeah. They were going to shoot me, right? And so, yeah. And so here we go again. Here we go again. So the night of the finals now, I'm singing, I'm singing the song. Was it When Black and Beautiful? Yeah, yeah. So I'm singing the song, and I'm saying to myself, well, whoever is going to shoot, this is my point of view about
And
about
there's a
life.
queue now. There's
If
a
they're
queue
gonna
now to
have,
do what they gotta do.
you gotta do what they gotta do. And
Right.
so
Correct.
when I was on stage, you know, somebody do a flag like this in the audience, and I just caught it from that's the periphery of my that, and I thought to myself like, this is it, and I kind of like just blank out for a few seconds, you know. I was like, oh God. But the lengths that people go to, or I have been in situations where people will come into my dressing room that I
Mm.
don't know, and they will come into my dressing room and they'll be like this, man, don't go out there and forget your words here, man. Try and go out there, don't go out there and forget your words. And you're trying to concentrate and just relax and enjoy
Mm-hmm.
The
the
evening.
evening,
Yeah,
you know. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
some people take it to such a different length, you know, that
yeah,
you sometimes ask yourself, well, why do you continue with this? But you know, for me, it really has been about my own service to people, because I
yeah,
think the messages that I sing might not be the popular things or the politics of the day or whatever, but for me, it was
hmm,
more about getting people to think and to think seriously about how they conduct themselves, how we as
yeah,
black people even behave
yeah,
towards each other. You know, when you
yeah,
hear me sing songs like Body Talk, Woman, I Love Your Body, how do we
yeah,
look at our women when we look at them? Is it always based on sex and lust and all these things? And I'm saying, no, it's
yeah,
not. Because there
yeah.
are other things about the woman's body that we can
Definitely.
look
Ah,
appreciate as a creation of the supreme being and as our partner
correct.
and me. So I try as best as I can to try to be thought provoking, to try to be as as conscious pricking as humanly possible when I go on stage in those competitions with my songs. And I never, to be quite honest, after 1995, it was no longer about the competitions for me at all. It was really about just getting the message to people, because I believe that if we can touch one person, if you just touch one person and cause them
Yes,
improve or to look at things different. You know,
Correct.
you've done.
Correct. Correct. And speaking of women, go
Question.
ahead, Alamayu.
Question though, I want to know in terms of like in different arenas like sports and different things, you have track talk
Mhm.
where people try to get into your head in terms of
Yeah,
the competition, right? So to throw
yeah,
you off your game. I'm just
yeah.
wondering if there was any of that, that kind of talk between the Calypsonians on the night. One would say, have you come off the stage to say, man, John, man, you wasn't shining tonight, boy. I don't think you're gonna win the
Mm,
crown. Oh, okay. I just,
not
I
because,
just wondered,
not because,
you know what I
no,
mean? Because
not
they're in
because,
competition, so you're not mode,
no,
you're not
not because
competition mode.
that happened. That will happen prior. That will happen prior to
Oh,
the night, right? So,
okay,
so,
Oh,
okay.
so,
okay.
so
Okay. Okay.
you will find, like in the interviews, that
Hmm.
guys do. They try to play mind games with you. So you will hear something like, for instance, I remember one person who had written in the newspaper that my sound jumping wave was just this repetitive set of hogwash, and it was like just jumping wave, mindless
Jump out
jang
rib,
over and
jump
over
out
again.
rib, jump out
Yeah,
rib.
yeah,
It's
yeah. So,
overbearing. All
so
we have hearing is
those are
what?
those are
Jump
the
out
things
rib,
where
jump.
people trying to play not only on
I
your
don't
mind,
know.
but they try to play. But they try to play on the
Mm.
mind of those persons who have to judge also, because
Correct.
we all
Yeah,
live
yeah,
in a
yeah.
very
Really?
small society. Of
Yeah.
course.
No,
So
that
we live
song
in a
was
very
sweet,
small
John. Don't mind
society,
them. That was
and
a sweet
and
song. That was a
but
sweet
no,
song.
yeah, but we understand what it is. Friendly, we
Yeah.
know what it is. What we would call friendly fire. We understand what it
Yeah.
is. Not such a problem. But
Okay. Okay.
where the problems come is where
Hmm.
the persons outside of the fraternity do not
Right.
understand what is going on, begin to take those things seriously, and
Wow.
in some instances would hate you because you threw some shade or something at the person that they like the most.
Mm,
Yeah,
Oh
mm.
man,
I mean,
that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sad.
that's where people fail to understand that, just like how you watch wrestling on TV
Yeah.
or any of
Yeah.
the sports, the Calypsonians, we are friends. I'm not
Yes.
saying that everybody eat the dinner with everybody and everybody's coming at everybody's house. We're
Right.
all in the art form
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's a common denominator, which is a love for the art form
For the
itself.
art form.
And so
Right.
therefore
Right.
all the other things, the banter and the competition, bravado and all the other things, that's a spectacle for the audience. That's to get people to come to the stadium. And that's the thing that I always tell people all the time. I remember once I read in the newspaper and said I was better than both Bag and Key. And I care what nobody said. And people told me left, right, and center for years. But you know what?
Wow.
What it did was it got people to come to the stadium to see both Bag and Gabby kill John King.
Yeah.
But when they got and they realized that this man got some serious talent for true, it propelled me
Yeah.
into the competition now, so that where people would say it either got to be between Gabby Bike and John King. It
Okay.
was
Okay.
That's
Mm.
right. That's
Gabby
right.
Right.
Bike.
I
It was
remember
Gabby
that.
Bike, John King. And so
I
I
remember.
sit down
Yeah.
and study every move that you have to make, because sometimes if you're not bold enough to get out there and tell the world, look, hey, look me, nobody
Yeah.
will notice. And so the whole concept that people have of not blowing your own trumpet, I blow
Hmm.
that out of the way, because it's nonsense. Because
Yeah.
if you don't,
Mm,
and
mm.
you're waiting on other people to tell the world that you got some talent and that you deserve to be in these conversations, it's not going to
Yes.
happen. And
No.
you have to move away or go beyond, if people like you or if people don't like you, or
Don't
if
like
people agree
you.
with
Yes.
you, if people do agree with you, it's
Yes.
irrelevant. What
Yes.
is the most important thing is that you have a vision for yourself and you
Yes.
go behind and you ensure that in so doing, you're
Hmm.
not trampling on anybody else, you're not
No.
pulling back at it, you're not
No.
causing them problems, but you're focused on getting yourself from point A to point B. And that's how I live my life all the time.
Yes.
And I'm
Hmm.
never afraid of any challenge that you put in front of me. at all. As it is something that I feel strongly about, you are in for the fight of your life.
All right.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah, yeah.
when we talk about women earlier, one
Mm-hmm.
such likelihood is the beautiful Alison Hyde. You know this song used to lick down everybody on the radio after y'all won.
But could
What
you
was it
imagine
like
it
on
still
the
doing it
stage?
today?
But Jonathan was not the original person for that. Jonathan just get bringing as a secondary man. He just get pulling. He just get pulling as to say you want somebody else.
Who was
Yeah,
the
you're
song
sure
for?
right.
Alison Hines or the other person? Who was the song for?
It was for Allison,
So for us,
it was for Allison, and
Right.
they and they asked for somebody else to come in, and I think at that time, Robert Weeks was the person who told him, look, get John King, you know, talk to John and see if he will come and do it. And from the time I heard the song, I said, I'm in, no problem. And I told Allison, the only thing that I'm going to say to you is that I am a very competitive person. If you know that you are not going to give this 100+%
100%.
in order to win, tell me now so that I can stay home. And I did it before we started, and I did it when we were walking up the steps on the plane to go to Trinidad. I say, if
Yeah.
you know that you are going to come second or third or any of them things, let me know so I can go home. And that's how I operate. Because at the time, Barbados had been represented by a number of people, but we were never able to win that competition.
Yeah.
I'm a fiercely proud Barbadian. When I tell you
Amen.
fiercely,
Yes.
fiercely. And
Yes.
so Alison could tell you, I told her when we get there, we got to pull out all of the stops. This
That's
is Flying
right.
Fish versus Cuckoo, you
Cuckoo.
know. Flying Fish, it's Flying Fish and
oh
Cuckoo
man,
versus Callaloo. So, you
And
know, we got to
crab.
do what we got to do. So, and we did it. And we did it. And
Yes.
it was one of
You
my
pull
very
that off.
proud, it was a proud moment for me. Not just for
Yes.
me, the individual, but again, as I mentioned to you, looking back at my life and what I would have done in steps. This was just another one of those areas where, you know, you think you can, they can because they think they can. And that was it.
Right. 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 Now, when we look at again the versatility of John King, the entertainer, when you were in the calypso arena, you diversified a bit and you went
Mhm.
on to perform in a band, Signature. Tell us about
Yes.
that.
Well, I had always wanted to try um, to be outside of the calypso arena to do other things. And
Yeah.
so you believe it or not, I had to actually audition for a signature because people were
Wow.
then at that point in time saying that, you know, oh, he's only sing these drony calypsos and blah blah. He can't really sing and blah blah blah
soprano,
blah
just soprano. Yeah,
blah. So I said, all right. So I went. At the time, the two people putting the band together was Chris Allman and Lance Howell,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and I did the audition. I did the
Mm-hmm.
audition. Remember, we had to learn a few Bob Marley songs and some other things.
Yeah.
I did the auditions and I got the gig to be the lead singer for the band. And I really take this opportunity to thank those two guys because everything that I have accomplished in music from that time
Yeah.
on started with being exposed to the discipline one of these guys in terms of how
Mm-hmm.
you treat the
Mm-hmm.
bands and
Mm-hmm.
you treat rehearsals and how and just all of those little fine points and even
Yes.
with that the business
Mm-hmm.
aspects of music also. So I really do thank those two gentlemen in particular. I'd be eternally grateful to them.
Good.
Eternally.
And and when you moved away from Signature, was it that you were playing for both bands, or you went from Signature to Spice?
No, I went from signature actually to solo. In fact, I went away on a ship. What was
Mm-hmm.
happening was at the time at the time, I think I felt stifled. You know, there's a time in your life where there's so many opportunities that were opening up for us as a band in a signature, and each time your foot went into the door, before you could get through, it would like just slamming off. And after a while, I said to myself, "But something has to be wrong," you know, because I just get a classic example. So you remember there was a song, "Set the Night to Music."
Set the
Max
night to
Priest,
music. Oh, yeah,
right, Max Priest and Roberta Flack.
yeah.
We were in the conversation. We were in the conversation about myself being the one to actually sing that song. It never
Right,
happened. You know,
right.
we were then in a conversation about going and opening for Roberta Flack on tour. And I think it was I think it was going to be in Hawaii or something. It never happened. Everything brought out. It never happened. And again, here you are. You're young, but you know within the music industry, the opportunities like that, if you miss them at a young age, it is very difficult to get them coming back to you in your latter years. So I thought to myself, you know, this is not going anywhere. The gap where we worked was becoming stale. It was becoming monotonous. It was just the same thing. And there was no
Over
growth,
and over.
just over and over. And I felt like I
Yes.
needed to. And at that time too, my life, my own personal life, I reached a place where I think I did not even recognize myself. You know, and I'll be real honest.
Oh.
I'll be really honest with you guys. You know, if you are on the top, when you're young and you're on the top, so they say, top of your game,
Yeah.
there's so many things that can come into your circle. People, all sorts of temptations, all sorts of things that if you're not careful, you can turn into what I believe the media or Hollywood portrays.
What they want. What they want.
What they portray the top entertainer to be. So it's supposed to be enough women, enough sex, alcohol, drugs, all of these type of things. But this is not me. That is not me. And so therefore you find yourself, you know, like dabbling, but there's this uneasiness within your spirit because you know that this is not who you are. And I think I reached a point in my life at that particular time where I had to just get away from it all and try to again
reassess.
And I mentioned it earlier.
Reassess yourself.
Reassess yourself. Is this who I want to be? No, it's not. So opportunity came for me to leave and go away and work on a cruise ship. It was supposed to be for 3 months. I ended up doing a full year on the first time, and then I came home, and that's when I got back in '94 when I got back in. But it was a time where, you know, I had a chance to center myself. I had a chance to go through what I would consider to be, I guess some people will call it the darkest period of the life. But for me, when I look back at it, it wasn't like the darkest period in my life. It was like almost, you know, they say, night gets darkest just before the dawn. And I think that was that turning point for me, where I wanted to put all the garbage, all of the other things away from my life and just find myself and be who I wanted to be, the real thing, not the persona that people want, or not the persona. Yeah, and so so that was good for me. That year was awesome. You know, I had a chance to do a lot of self-reflection. I had a chance to do a lot of reading. Started to get into lots of stuff, and I tell you, it was the brightest spark of my life. It really was.
So you found what John King? You found what John A. King?
I found John A. King. You know, just think about it. If you're a guy, you grew up in a little village. You know
Yeah.
everybody. That's real cool. You're accustomed to all of these people all around, or all of this adulation, or all of this, whatever. It's easy for it to go to your head, and it's also
Mhm.
easy
Yeah.
in to lose respect for not only yourself but for people in general. You,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
anytime that you find that is happening, and you don't feel a sense of this doesn't feel right, then you really need help. You really need more help than yourself.
That's
But
right.
I was fortunate enough to know that it's just not me. It just ain't feel like me. And even today in this life that I'm in now, you
Hmm.
know, there are things that you have to deal with it. And as long as it don't feel right, it doesn't feel like you. I
Hmm.
always say that you have to be true to
To
you. And
yourself.
and,
Yeah.
and
Correct. Yeah.
people might not like it because the how do I say this? The world of politics may say that you have to be a different way. You have to be
Yeah.
more vocal.
Mhm.
You have to be
Yeah.
more aggressive with people, and you have to be all these kind of things. But but
But
but
you're not an aggressive person.
that's not
You're very loving. I don't find you to be an aggressive person at all. So
no,
don't ever think that you have to go that route at all.
no, I don't.
Um,
I don't.
Uh,
yeah.
I certainly won't, regardless of
Yeah.
what people think,
Yeah.
because that's not how I view people.
You're
And at the end
that's
of the
right.
day, I deal with people as people. I don't deal with
Yeah.
people
mhm.
based on you are BLP or DLP, or you
Hmm.
are Christian, or you are Muslim, or I
Right.
don't deal with things.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
those things mean absolutely nothing to me.
We we
What
have the
is more,
same vision.
yeah, what is more
We have the
important for
same
me?
Yeah.
vision.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree.
I deal
Yeah.
with you as a brother,
Sister
a
or a
sister.
sister. Yeah.
I
As the
don't care what.
individual.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
the
I don't care
individual.
what color
Right.
you are.
Right.
I don't care how much education you have, or lack of education you have. Those things don't excite me at all. What
Beautiful.
excites me is that we can agree to disagree on things.
Yeah.
Still, if I need to stop and pick you up from the bus stop and drop you to where I need to drop you,
Hmm.
I'm going
Hmm.
to do it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Mhm.
just the
That's what you're
I
supposed to do.
like, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
at the end of the day, yeah, but a lot of people have these strange ideas about how you're supposed to behave based on where you find yourself at any given point in time. But I always
Yeah.
say
Correct.
to people, one of the
Yeah.
Agree.
things
That's so
one of the
true.
things I always try to tell people, if you go to the blood bank, you're in a hospital and you need blood, are
Hmm.
you going to ask the doctors who this blood come from? You can
No.
ask them if this come from a white person, if it come from an
Or a black
Asian, if it come
person.
from an Indian, if it come from a
No.
black person. No, you will
No.
You
not.
just want blood.
No.
You
You
No.
just
just
want
want
blood.
in order
Yes.
to live. It's the
That's
same
right.
way that
Mhm.
you go to the doctor and you are sick. You're not going to ask the doctor, well, before you look at me, are you a BLP or are you a DLP? You're not going to do it. Be real talk, right? You're not going
Keeping
to
it
do it.
If
real.
that was happen, if that was
You,
to happen, boy, you'll be in a bad place, boy.
I'm telling
Listen.
you. You understand what I'm
In a
saying?
bad
So
place if you're supposed to
therefore,
do that.
yeah. So therefore, a lot of the strange ideas that
Yes.
pass as being the norm within
Yes.
this world that we live
Yes.
in, I
Yes.
cannot subscribe to them, and I will not subscribe to them. And
No.
I'm not interested in how other people feel,
Yes.
because at the
Yes.
end of the day, when I look in the mirror, I have to be
Hmm.
satisfied with the person that I see in the mirror. Now, I'm
That's
not
right.
fooling
Correct,
myself.
because
Yeah.
as you said,
Listen.
if John King doesn't know who John King is, if John King doesn't know
Exactly.
who John King is, then nobody else will know who John King is.
That's
You better
right.
Because
believe it.
John King has to put John King to the world. So if John
Yes.
King doesn't know himself, then how can he put himself out there? You understand?
Right.
And
Exactly.
at the
Right.
end there, as he said, when he looks in the mirror and he sees the reflection back at him, he must feel satisfied that what he sees back at him is
Yes.
a is a
It's
good
As a
reality
true
of himself.
person. It's a
of
true
It's a
myself.
good
person.
reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
then when he makes the assessment, then he can decide, okay, well, I don't like the person I'm becoming. I mean, no, I'm an
Mhm.
MP. There's certain things I don't like that I've taken on now. And he can say to
Mhm.
himself, well, I will take a step back and try to work on these areas so that I
Yes.
can get back to the real John King. You understand?
Yes.
Because
Exactly.
Yes.
circumstances
Exactly.
change us,
Yes.
positions change us, and
Yes.
we take up certain habits and certain things. As he
Mhm.
mentioned earlier, people may
Mhm.
see John King now and say, well, because he's an MP, he's supposed to act a certain way, he's supposed to do things differently now. But
Yes.
at the end of the day, John King is John King.
That's right.
You
That's right. I
exactly.
believe
All
that. I
all that
believe
happened
that.
is all that happened is he joined the bandwagon of the BLP and he's an MP.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
listen,
That
at the
that
end
sounds
of the
good.
day, but at
Join the
the end of the day, right?
bandwagon.
At the end of the day, it really is for me. It is about what contribution can you make to better the lives of the
Of
people
others.
who have
Yeah.
given me the opportunity to be the person that I want to be.
To serve.
Now imagine,
Correct.
I told you early that living
Mhm.
in England, it is highly probable that
Mhm.
I could have either end up in jail or died
Mhm.
early. Knowing the kind of mentality that I had
Mentality.
when I was young, I
Yes.
am sure that if I probably had gotten into anything with them gangs, the Hell Angels, and all these things, somebody would either kill me or I would have
Yes.
probably killed somebody.
Yes.
Which either way, my life would have been over one way or the other. You
Yeah.
come
Correct.
to
Yeah.
this,
Agree.
you
Yeah.
come to this place, and you have the opportunity to be anything. I decided I want to be a singer. I've been a singer. I decide now I want to try my hand at politics. I've become a politician. Who knows what's next? I want to be a priest tomorrow. I don't know. But the point is, the
John King a
country
priest? No.
has
John King a priest.
me.
Yeah, I
Think
You
really
about it.
never
believe
know.
that.
You never know. You
You
never
never
know. You
know.
never know.
But the country, and I think this is the point I try to make to the people in Barbados all the time. You have a wonderful country, and you have
Yes.
to start thinking seriously about how you treat to it, how you treat to each other.
Yes.
And it cannot be that every time you open your mouth, you're telling me about tourists. The
Yes.
people live
Yes.
here. This is not just Sun, Sea, and Sun, People,
No.
actual
No.
people live here. And the
Yes.
people who live here have to be able first to put themselves in such a position that when
Yes.
visitors come to our place, not only visitors feel welcome, but that if I
Yes.
leave St. Philip now and going St. George, I must feel as if I I'm if
You
I'm meeting
hope.
people for the first time.
Yes.
Forget that I'm John King. You know me from 18 years old on stage and what. Forget all of that. I
Right.
want you to treat to me as a friend, as a
Yes.
brother,
Yes.
as a. Don't put me in all them other boxes. Oh, he's an MP, he's a
Yeah.
BLP,
But
he's a red man. I'm
actually,
not into
John,
that.
I
But you know
forgot
that's gonna
that you were
happen
an
either way,
MP.
Mr. King. You know that
Yeah,
will
but
happen either way though.
the
Because
point is
as
this.
Barbados a polarized place, Barbados a
But
Yeah,
polarized place.
Alamayo
You
using
go
a
one
big word,
place,
polarized.
you go one place and you got
that's right.
BLP. You go
You
one place
put
and you got BLP. And just 5 yards or a couple steps down the road, DLP.
yeah,
And you
Mhm.
lick right
But
up. You
but think
understand?
about it.
So
yeah,
But,
yeah,
but think
yeah.
about it. Think about it.
Yeah, yeah. Now
God forbid,
something.
God forbid, right? God forbid.
Uh-huh.
But think about it.
Yes.
If
Okay.
there was, if there is a natural disaster on this island,
Mm-hmm. Heaven forbid.
and we have to help each other. You
What
are help
other?
people from homes that blow down or earthquake or something or whatever it is that happens. Who
Yes.
is
Yes.
going to be asking who is a BLP, who is a
Who's a
DLP, who
DLP?
is a Christian, who is a
Politics
Muslim,
done.
who's a
Politics
red
done.
man,
Politics
who's a
done.
black man, who is going to be asking those stupid questions?
Yeah.
Nobody.
No.
Nobody. So my
No.
position is this. Why wait till when something like that happens to realize that these things are as not as important as you make them out to be? They have
Yes.
relevance. Yes, they do. Because
Mhm.
we live in a world, as you said, of opposites and differences and whatever
Mhm.
say. But that is the That is the product of the supreme being in his
Yes.
wisdom. He made
Yes.
things different so you can enjoy variety, you can enjoy difference in thought, and you can do
Correct.
difference in complexion, difference in
Yes.
everything. You can imagine everybody, they look the same. All we looking wrong, we like your horse had it, we can't even call it twins, because all we got the same features, look the same way, talk the
That's
same way,
right.
think the
That's
same way.
right.
It
Yes.
wouldn't make any sense. But if
Yes.
the supreme being in his wisdom could do
Yes.
these things and
Mm-hmm.
and appreciate it, but who
Mm-hmm.
are you and I to
Yes.
not be able to do the same thing? Yet you got people who just tell me all the time, oh, I want to be like Jesus. I want to be like this boy. I want to be like next. But then when you ask them, okay, so why is it that you hear this person over here so much? Is that
Yes.
being like Jesus? I think not. But
No.
we say one thing from this side of the mouth, but do something else from the other
Outside.
side.
Yeah.
And unless
That is
we
so
get to
true.
the stage
That
where
is
we
so true.
have conversations like these that are true, without people
Yeah.
getting upset, without people
Yeah.
no one cut off your head and curse you and carry on. But just
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
You will
And
realize, right?
sometimes, but John, sometimes what happens when you think about the political aspect of parties, it's not necessarily to have a hatred. Now, as an individual, I'm not saying this might have been the road that you're on or chosen options, in the sense that even if you became a member of that particular party, it may be that you saw something in that particular party that the other party wasn't doing. It's like you going to Cave Shepherd and Abed's.
Of course,
You go to Cave Shepherd, you're not going to get what you want, so you have to go to Abed's.
it's
It's just simple, a simple
it is. It is
option,
as simple as that.
a
But people try to
choice.
make it. You're so correct. But people try to make it out into this big thing. And I always say to people,
Yeah.
just stop and think about. I think that's why I keep
Yeah.
saying that this country is blessed beyond its understanding.
Yes.
We have been able to
Definitely.
have peaceful transitions from one government to the
To
next
another.
without any wars, without
Yeah.
any violence, without
Yes.
any killings. We've been able
Mm-hmm.
to maintain a certain standard of living,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of which party was in, but
Yeah.
a number of years.
But it
Right?
has a lot to do with respect. It still
We
has a
have,
lot to do with respect,
yeah,
because you still sit after a meeting and you're gonna say, "Hey, expect how you going, boy? What's up?" You know,
but,
you still have a
but
life
think
to
about
live
it.
at the end of
But
after
but
politics.
think about it. On 166 square miles,
Uh-huh.
tell me who
11
has not gone,
parishes, 4
yeah,
towns.
who has not either gone to school, gone to vocational school,
Mm-hmm.
gone to university, gone
Mm-hmm.
to school, gone to
Mm-hmm.
whatever, without meeting or being in the presence of people who
Yes.
have different political or religious views
Just
than yourself.
beliefs. Yes.
Mhm.
It's
It's
Agreed.
life.
these are these are
Yeah,
these
just
are
life.
these are these are non-issues that people
Yes.
try to make issues out of.
Yeah.
And so I've always told myself that if there's one thing, even if I get crucified for it, is that I will speak my truth, because this is
Yes.
my truth. I
Yes.
cannot. In all good consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
there is a time and a place for everything. And
Correct.
when we come, when we got to talk politics and differences on politics,
Mm-hmm.
you they got two people in this country that will be able to deal with things how if
Then
I really
there's
decide I
another
can deal
song. There's another
with
song.
I need a song, I can talk it, I even gonna sing it, I can talk it. But the truth is, but the truth is, if I allow that to be the only vision that I have,
Yes.
if that becomes the only vision that I have for the country, then
Mm-hmm.
something
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
something is wrong. Something
Yes.
is wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
end of the day, as I said earlier, God
Mm-hmm.
forbid, but if a natural disaster or something happens here, who are we going to turn to? Each other.
Yeah. That's
We
right.
got to turn
That's
to each
right.
other. And I try to
That's
preach
right.
it morning, noon, and night. We can do
Yeah.
better. Barbadians can
Mm-hmm.
do better than they're doing at present. And
Yeah.
this goes out to not just the general public, as people will call it. This goes out to people in the media. This goes out to people who flood Facebook and Instagram and all of these
Other
online
stuff.
things with a lot of nonsense.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
feel good. They feel good about it because it gives them the opportunity to tear people's character to shreds in a forum where sometimes people don't have the opportunity to respond or they can't respond.
Correct. Yeah, they can't
You see,
respond.
they can't respond. But what you're doing at the same time is that you're painting a picture of us as a people.
Yes.
That is not necessarily the full picture.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you would notice that all of the I mean, sometimes I see some things, right? We can disagree. We can disagree to disagree. We can agree to disagree. But I see some things with people, the kind of language that they use to describe somebody
I want to get to that.
I want to get to that. It's almost unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. You know, it. Anyway, you asked me. Sorry.
Now, we went into the part that was supposed to be at the end, so we jumped a hurdle there a bit. What I wanted to touch on in the article, it also stated that I know myself and Alam, I haven't had this opportunity, but you can confirm or correct it. It said that you shared the stage with persons such as Skeeter Davis, Kenny Rogers, the Drifters, Freddie Jackson, Benny King, Air Supply, Third World, Maxi Priest, Beres Hammond, and every soca star alive. Tell me, were you starry-eyed when you had those opportunities?
No.
That's true? That is true, true. Who was the best person you performed with? Out of all those names,
who
did you enjoy the most?
I'll tell you who put my head in the clouds the most, but Benny King. I'll tell you what.
You stood by him.
Let me tell you, after I performed, right? After I performed, it was at a gymnasium. Never forget. After I performed, you know, because we opened for him. After I performed, when it was his turn to go on, he called me over. You know, he said, "Young man, I have heard a lot of good singers in my life. So when I tell you that you are one of the best I've ever heard, believe me." And I left there. I don't know. It's a good thing I don't wear hats, cause I know that my head would not be able to fit into that hat at all. and then with Skeeter Davis, you know, I come along here, all of her country music and stuff. You know, your grandparents and thing would have introduced you to that. And
Skeeter Davis, yes.
If you're like me, you go around to those dances and hear people singing the songs and that sort of stuff. You know, for me to get the opportunity to perform with her, and then I had to learn the song like just hours before the actual show itself.
Wow.
And it came off really, really well. And then when she came back for the second show, she was asking for me, but I was out of the island on tour myself. So I felt really good about those things because
John King is a big boy, you know. John King is a big shot, you know.
You just big shot.
John King is like easy man.
So it's like, you know, I mean, I learned something from all of them because I watched all of those artists that you mentioned there very closely whilst I was on stage. I remember Maxi Priest coming backstage at it was in St. Lawrence Gap. We were doing the Conga Line Festival and he had come in and stuff and he came backstage and he was like, wow. Jeffrey Carter had performed. I had performed. He was like, "Wow, man, you guys can sing." You know, so you when you have persons like that acknowledging you, you know, Jeffrey Osborne, the same thing. We did a show with him, same thing. But you have people like that acknowledging you, knowing that you live on 166 square miles with very little opportunities to make it on the world stage. But then when the world come to you and confirm to you that you know I mean, it's good because we live in a society where people, again, I have to say this, would like to pigeonhole you based on the fact that
we heard that today.
sometimes they grow
Heard
up
the
with
word
you.
pigeonhole.
But no, but sometimes people like to do things like this. So they grow up with you and they know that you come from real humble beginnings and you used to go out stamp paper, collect water, and you go out with sheep and swash down pig pen and do all anything. That is all they will ever see you as. And so don't care what you do, even if it's singing. Yo, he can't sing, man. Well, you know he ever sings. Or
Right.
so you see how the two things get connected. He
Yeah.
cannot sing because I know him everything. Not because he ain't got a good voice, but because I know he ever sings and he ain't a body.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you get
That's
those
right.
types of, and this is a
Yeah,
society. This is a society that hates
Yes.
its. Is one of the things that I've always taught the Barbadians about. Where does this self-loathing and this self-hatred come from? You will hear
I
people talk about sportsmen, and then
yeah.
you will get think Smokey Burt made a song, but they say such and such a body the back real good, but or such and such a body is a real good visual artist, but or this body is a good politician, but so there's always they always have to qualify the statement with a negative end. These are things that actually bother me. Not for myself, because like I tell you,
For others.
I really don't worry too much about what people think about me at all. I can't.
No. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wastes
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what
So
but what but what, but what I look at is
yes.
what level is it that the society is operating on? Because if I go on a scale of 1 to 10, we would probably be 1.5
Oh Lord.
because you operate in that space. What
Yeah.
you what you, what you are doing is that you're never able to recognize the very best of yourself. All the people, the great cricketers, the great musicians, the great politicians, the great teachers, great firemen, great policemen, great whatever
Yeah.
evangelists, whatever it is, they come from within this society. They weren't made
Right.
outside and then come. They were
That's
made
right.
here. So that if you are constantly denigrating them, you're denigrating yourself at the same time.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and
So
it
agree, agree,
absolutely makes no
agree.
yes,
sense.
that's so true. Now, John,
Mhm.
what about Jegna?
Well, Jagger came along in what I would term as my strongest Pan African um, part of my life. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
in 1994, I spent a
Mm-hmm.
lot of time in California going into a black bookshop and reading constantly from Egyptology,
Uh-huh.
um, Africa, the underdevelopment of Africa, and the
Mm-hmm.
match of Africa. I mean, all things African. I started to study, even looking at African religions, and all of the other things. And
Mm-hmm.
having the experience that I would have mentioned to you earlier as a child, I was always very interested in one of the first questions I remember asking myself was, well, why do people hate me based on my skin color? You're living in
Right.
England, with all of these other colored people, you're different. But why
Mm-hmm.
do they hate me? Where do I come from? Because obviously I ain't come from here. That was the first one. The second one was when I always remember this. I was 11 years old and I was traveling to St. Lucia for the very first time
Mm-hmm.
on the plane.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm not ashamed to talk about it now because I
Mm-hmm.
learned from that. But when I was going onto the plane and I saw that the pilot was a black man, I wanted to get off the plane.
Oh
I
no.
was scared. I was scared senseless because in my mind, I have never seen black people fly planes, do none of these things. So in my head, this was beyond our capabilities based on how things were fed to me for years.
Mm-hmm.
When I got off that plane in St. Lucia, I think I changed. I think I changed completely because it was different for me. And from then I started to go on this journey to learn more about myself as a black person, to learn more about Africa, learn more about all of these things to counter a lot of the other stuff that I would have been taught.
sorry, John has
Yeah,
hit on a nail that I think a lot of persons notice the change in you. And for some reason, it actually became the anthem. Now, hear what I'm saying. It became the anthem of Guyana.
yeah,
And it is one of
I
my
know,
favorites.
I know.
One of my favorites. And it's How Many More?
Sing whoa. Hear my plea, oh dear.
Beautiful song.
A
A
song
lot of
of
people
my
don't know that
life.
this song, giving me goosebumps, this song actually played again when those
Rose up
two
early
young
this
boys got killed in
morning
Guyana.
to
And
the sounds of
if you saw the
crying.
remarks behind the
Another
video,
mother
it was so
shedding
sad,
her
very, very sad.
tears.
But
Oh
this song
yeah.
spoke of what
Why all the
happens
pain and
every day
suffering?
in this
Why
world.
all the senseless
So hearing you
killing?
talk about
Could
reading
it be
about
that
Africa and
nobody
revisiting those roots,
cares? Oh
I
no.
mean, the song can
So
make
many
anyone
sons
cry,
lost in the
and it
slaughter.
has a lot of
Blood
meaning.
running in the streets like water. A gun in
Yeah,
But
this
hand.
Mary,
one.
I
Knows
remember,
no
I remember,
friend.
I had an
No.
incident with Johnson.
Womangas
We were at a
selling
church
death in
in
my
St. Philip. I
land.
can't remember
Yet you
the name
recharge
of
the
the church because we have
souls
a
of we
church and can't
children.
remember
Hmm.
the church.
Can you
But
tell
anyway,
me when
me
will
and my
it
group were to
end?
perform
How
and they had
many
Johnson there. So Johnson was
more
sitting down and we asked Johnson what song he was going to perform. So he
must
said
carry
that he
this
performed this song.
load?
So I said to Johnson, you know, I was going to like
How
Polytechnic
many
and we um we we wrote his song
more before
to
we
suit
cross the
our hymn.
dark side
So
of
I
the
said to Johnson, you know, it should start out with I woke up early this morning to the sounds of gunshots. Another innocent person dying, right? So Johnson Johnson said, well, I didn't think of that one then, but you know, that one sounds good too. But I mean, that's the whole essence of the song and what Johnson was trying to bring across to
Heavenly
people.
Father,
I
would
mean,
you hear my
every
plea?
time you hear this
Send
song,
a
you just have to
hand
sit down
under
and
the
think.
And
You know,
think,
just
country.
sit down
yeah.
and
In
think about
darkness,
the
no
struggle of black people, of
solution.
anybody who come out from the
On the
small
children's
dead end
future.
village
Oh, Jah,
where they
come
say that
save
nobody
Rani
ain't going to
Allah.
come out from.
How
You know what I mean?
can we stop this
So
mind
it's a real
You're
nice
so
song.
right.
I love this
It's,
song.
you
I
know,
love this song. It's a
let
beautiful
me tell you,
song.
it, it, it really is one of those songs that you feel as if you were the only person who could sing it at that particular point in time. The song kind of like chose you rather than you chose the song. And
Oh,
it's you know, every time I sing this song, it brings back a lot of memories because this song was written basically on the death of a young man who was shot some years ago. I think it was around the same 1990s. Was standing up at a bus stop somewhere in Lodge Road. You know, I think he was
wow.
somebody that I would have worked with at government industrial school. And it was kind of
Mm,
hard. It was kind of hard for me, you know, because like it or not, when you work with young people, you get attached to them almost
yeah,
like if they're your own children. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Sometimes you got a little rough with it. Sometimes you got to be think, you know, tough love. But at the end of the day, every single one I can remember, and every single one had the same feeling that I
Mm,
have for my own blood children. I have for
yes.
them. And I guess it will always be like that until the day I die. And so it's one of those songs that speaks to our pain. It speaks to our problems with the violence and stuff. And I just hope that I can write a new song that will speak to more positive things about us as a people. Because I think oftentimes we run away from when we are not who we say we want to be. You get
Mm-hmm,
all the things, all the gun violence, all the
mm-hmm,
domestic violence, all of
mm-hmm.
the bad talking and one another and all these things, because these are things that have been fed into our heads that this is
Yeah.
who we are, this is how we behave, and then we actually go ahead and act it out, you know,
Mm,
and
mm,
until my people, and I'm talking specifically to Black people now, until we take responsibility for
Responsibility.
ourselves and get
Yeah.
out of the what I call the victimology. We got to get out of it. Yes, we know what slavery has done. Yes, we know what racism has done. But at the end of the day, the power to change, the power to move forward differently lies only with ourselves. It
Yeah.
don't lie with nobody else
Yeah.
until we take responsibility for ourselves
Yeah.
and our own
Yeah.
development as people. You know, we are going to always find these crutches to lean on or to fall
Yeah.
back on when things don't
Yeah.
go the way that we would like them, or when we do things that we think makes us feel a little bit shorter than what we expect ourselves to do. But it's not beyond
Yeah.
us to do
Oh,
these things. But what,
Yeah.
but
yeah,
what
yeah,
it
of
is
course, of
that
course, of course.
we've got to be able to look in the mirror. And I always tell people this. I have a very different religious belief to a lot of people. And I know when I say certain things, people get upset. But I always say this to people. If you want to see the devil, look in the mirror. That's like who the devil is. Because it is here that you think, and it is there that it's from there when you think something and you act upon it, that is you. There
Yeah.
ain't no little man with a fart on your shoulder whispering in your
No.
ear, go and do this, go
Yeah.
and do next, go and do third. It is you. And
Yeah.
until you can take responsibility for your actions, you always finding this Satan, this devil to be a crutch. I'm saying
Yes.
remove. If he's real, he's real. If he ain't real, he ain't real. Don't matter to me.
Right.
But I must
Right.
take responsibility in actions that I do. Might not get everything right every time, but so what?
That was it,
And
Franco.
admit that you made a mistake. Try to correct it if you can. If it's something that you can't correct, but it's something that you can apologize for it and move on. And
Yeah.
try to get better, going forward. But this whole idea of putting your head down and deciding, okay, I made a mistake. I probably this and I shouldn't do. I end up in prison. Then you can carry that burden on your shoulder for the rest of your life. Or you know what? I was married and it didn't work out. Maybe I should do things different to this. I feel like a failure. Boom, boom, boom. You're
Right.
killing yourself over that too. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Life
Yeah.
is a journey and it is a continuous
New
journey of,
journey.
in my mind, a continuous journey of growth. Of
Yes.
always look to grow. You can
Yes.
fall, you can stumble, you can do all of them things. But you see, I tell people, do not measure yourself by your failures. And I don't believe in that word, but I use it for reference so people can understand what I'm talking
Stand.
about.
Right.
Do not
Yeah.
measure
That is so
yourself by
true.
your failures. Measure
That
yourself
is so
by
true.
your successes and look to
Now,
get better each time. And if
now,
all of us were to endeavor to do that, you will see how different life will be.
for you, as quote unquote one of the best entertainers we have had in Barbados, I know at some point in time they will ask you to sing a song or something to that effect, be it as it may. Now, being the minister, you were formerly the minister of culture, and now you're the minister in the ministry of culture. And a lot of people would have been asking you
Mhm.
specific questions on crop over. Now, I know we run out of time, but the question is, as an entertainer during that peak period of that festival called crop over, I asked another entertainer this question: do you miss in this time the aspect of the actual live band on the road for crop over? Do you think it was a necessity back then? Because to us it looked different, and it was more of a festive period. One, two. Now that the shoe is on the other foot, what is your expectation for the festival? Notably, that we have had, this is going to be quote unquote nearly 2 years that we have been somewhat dormant, not having the
Mhm.
festivity due to COVID. And there was talk in the pipeline that we may have quote unquote a mini crop over for 2021.
All right. So the first thing I want to clarify with people is that they must stop seeing crop over as being Kadooment Day. Kadooment
No,
Day
no.
is a part
Uh,
of crop over.
yeah.
It is not crop
Mm-hmm.
over. See,
No.
oftentimes when we speak of crop over, everybody zooms in on Kadooment Day.
Kadooment
So
Day.
people want to see
Yes.
bands, people want to see
Mm-hmm.
costumes, and people want to dance in the street and drink at the side of the road and have a ball and do all the things. But that is not crop over. That is just one
But they don't know
aspect,
that crop over came about from the
right?
closure of the crop, John. They have to remember that's how the
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It
festivities
has its
started.
historical roots. Yeah, that's how it got
Yes.
started. It has its roots in that. But the season itself is really the time when we get to explore and expose all of the creativity of our people.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
it's from movement bands to calypsos to art to innovation to culinary arts. I mean everything. So
Everything.
we gotta see it in that terms first before we talk about crop over, because
Mm-hmm.
when one of the things that I would like to see,
Mm-hmm.
yes, like I would love to see a return of live bands and all those on the road. I think they add to the spectacle, they add to the ambiance, and it also
Yes.
gives musicians and other persons an income stream during the festival, and it gives
Yes.
the revelers and the others another bit of excitement. So I love the idea of working along with DJs. So you have DJs and you have live bands, and I'm fine with that. But
Mm-hmm.
the festival itself must now begin to evolve, and it cannot evolve through a directive from me or a directive from anybody. It has to
Mm-hmm.
evolve from the creativity and from the brilliance of the practitioners. And when I say the practitioners, I mean all of the practitioners, from
Mm-hmm.
the costume makers to the band leaders and promoters to the visual artists to the culinary artists to the musicians to the songwriters to the clothing designers. I mean, everybody has to pitch in and
Mm-hmm.
begin to envision this thing in a different way. I I believe that regardless of what happens this year, that once the world goes back to some semblance of people being able to gather and do things, that we must
Mm-hmm.
be ahead of the curve in terms of futuristic thinking and how we
Mm-hmm.
present that festival to the rest of the world. You know what I mean? I want
Mm-hmm.
people to begin to think of what can we do that an Eskimo or Inuit in the middle of a winter could put
Mm-hmm.
on
No, leave
what
it.
do you call it? One of those reality things and actually
Yes.
feel
Yeah.
as if he is in real time in
Mm-hmm.
Barbados on the
Right.
mighty Guiana Highway or on the beach somewhere enjoying the festival with people, that he can
Mm-hmm.
actually
Mhm.
feel the pulse of the music. He can smell the food and the sweat and all the other things that come along with it. We have to start thinking in terms of how do we deliver those things to people who
But
live
you
far away.
know, but
Not
you know,
expect that
John,
everybody must be here
be-
in space.
before I forget, now you're on that aspect. When I started to follow the festival, I remember going to Portville Sugar Factory when they had the carts bringing in the last set of canes, because that was the day in which the last set
Yes,
of
the
canes were
delivery of
going to
the
be
last thing.
drawn.
Hmm.
And then you had
Hmm.
um, Queen's Park, where they had various activities, and Daphne Hackett Theater, I think it was
Theater.
called. It's
Yep.
it's called,
Yep.
and they had
Still
various
there.
activities along in those areas. Now, as you said earlier, a lot of young folks, well, I would say we are the young ones, but they don't think of crop over as the festival that we knew it as. And that is really the marketable aspect of the whole festival. And if I even have to step a little further back into history, people like the late Antonio Barker, who, quote unquote, really started, if I'm correct, you can correct me, bands, the costume bands, because I think he went to Trinidad and he brought that over to Barbados, and that's where that whole costume aspect of carnival really started in Barbados. Um, I agree with what you're saying. Some people would disagree, and you have to be able to satisfy the need of everyone, because the older folks like the cultural aspect.
Mhm.
We might just like the tents. That's how some people are. Some people just want to go to the tents. And then you have some
Mhm.
people who like to do the last canes coming in, go to the tents, and actually go and look at the art and craft. Whatever became of
But
Pelican Village, things like that.
right. But don't forget, there's also the heritage parts of it where last like 2 years ago we had wonderful heritage tours and stuff like that where
Yes,
people really
yes.
really enjoy those things. So
And I
there's a
call and I
little bit
couldn't
of
even get
every.
on. They were sold out.
You understand? You understand? So there's a little bit of everything, a little bit of something for everybody
Hmm.
within crop over. You just have to
Yes,
find the things that you like and support them to your fullest. But
yes,
what I'm speaking about is the creative side of it, where our musicians must become more creative in what they do with the music. Our
hmm,
songwriters have to become more creative with the songs. Our costume designers have to become more creative with the things. You have to think outside of the box, and
but when you
you
say
can't.
creative, John, when you say creative with the costume, you mean more cloth or less cloth?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me if it's more or less. What does matter to me
Really,
is
John,
that
really.
it really doesn't matter. What it does matter to me is that it speaks to our Barbadiana. It speaks to our Barbadianness. That when somebody in Japan logs on and he sees it,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
they say, wow, this is what the people in Barbados are doing. Or somebody in Africa logs on and says, wow, this is what's happening in Barbados. You know, that things are at such a level that they have what we call the wow factor. So that by the time
Yeah,
you get off, that you get off a
yeah.
plane. First thing that
Mm-hmm.
by the time you get onto the plane coming to Barbados, there must
Right.
be things crop over that already
Mm-hmm.
start to grab you on the flight coming down. If it's the
Mm-hmm.
music, if it's the videos with the costumes, if it's the interviews with people, whatever it is, when you get off the plane at the airport, somebody
Mm-hmm.
should be greeting you with all sorts of gifts
Yes.
that come from the various companies in Barbados that produce things from rum
Piece of
to
can.
soap,
Give the people some
whatever it is.
can.
Cane juice, whatever. We know sugar is not king anymore as it was before, but you still gotta use
Yes.
it. So if
Yes.
it's sugar cubes, if it is rum, if it is whatever it is, but these things that are
Yeah,
barbaric in their
yeah,
nature, you must have them at the
yeah.
airport. Each person that gets off that plane must be greeted by the music. They must be greeted by the girls in costumes. You have to feel as if you're stepping into a new world, and everything going from the airport to your hotel. When you get to your hotel, the drinks that they're giving you at the cocktail party or whatever it is that they usually have must
Mm-hmm.
reflect everything Barbadian. Somebody must be there to tell you the story of rum, how it came
Yes.
about, how these
And
drinks were made.
and to
Our
note
design,
that Barbados has the oldest rum in the world. Hey.
not just the oldest, the first, the
The,
inventors
First,
of rum. We are the
okay.
inventors of
correct.
rum. And so
Yes.
that's why you see that I get very angry when I hear people using talking about rum in a disparaging way, but we'll talk about champagne and whiskey and all these other things as if there's something so fantastic as opposed to rum.
Yes.
This is our invention. So I ain't telling the boy go to abuse it, but you have to be able to appreciate it as something
Yes.
that you invented. So my
Yes.
whole idea
Correct.
is by the time you leave to go to Barbados to go back to your land where you came from, it
Mm-hmm.
must be an experience. You must leave with 280,000 new friends. You must leave with 280,000 gifts of love. You must leave thinking that this is a place that if you want to retire and live, this is where you want to
You
be
want to come back.
with these decent, friendly, loving people. That's all.
Is this vision of yours? Is this vision of yours, which you speak of, because I'm already on the road you're on, but is this vision you speak of the entertainer talking or the minister in the ministry or both? Because don't forget,
No,
you would have gone
All
away
is
from
John King,
that.
though. All is
it's
No, no,
John
no,
just
no,
King.
no, 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 no,
All
no.
that's
is
the
John.
point. That's the
His
point.
passion,
Because
his passion has always been in entertainment and music, entertaining people and feeling the love and gravitating with music and teaching them and talking to them through music. The show has changed because he has been in it and he knows what it is being on that other street. Now he's on a different street. So
yeah, but
his vision, he would have never been in this seat had he not taken a chance as a minister. So this is something totally different. And my thing is, this affords you the opportunity now to maybe do something you envisioned while you were the entertainer.
well, the one thing that I would like to be able to accomplish, and that is to revamp the festival itself
Yeah.
from top to bottom, so that
And
you
I see
have
that.
more involvement of Barbadians, and so that I get very concerned when I hear people always talking about, oh, we need people from outside to come and support the bands in order for the bands to be full. I
Okay.
mean, our population is small, but I still feel that we as Barbadians need to be the ones who get involved in supporting the bands, in supporting the visual artists, in supporting the tents, in supporting the culinary artists, in supporting all these things. They are ours, and there are
Yeah.
people who are creating these things,
Yeah.
our brothers and sisters. So for me, my vision is to get this thing to a point where the people in the diaspora, the second and third and fourth and fifth generation Barbadians, want to drop everything and come to this island for 8 weeks of festival. Not just the last part, the last weekend, but for the
Yeah.
8 weeks of the festival, they want to be here. Now, how do we do that? We do that by simply improving on everything that we deliver.
Okay.
We got
Okay.
to improve on we got to look at it as serving, which means we got to deliver on the experience. So from the time, that's when we talk about the time you land. From the time you land, I must be whining and dining and making you feel as if you are my long lost cousin from somewhere you must feel so welcome. Yeah, you must feel so welcome that if anything went wrong on your trip, you forget it, because that's just a blimp in the experience. You must get out across the island. We have.
Right.
I drive around the island almost every weekend. I get a chance to do it, right? And every time I drive around, I am astounded or astonished by something new that I noticed about Barbados that I didn't notice before. And so I like to implore people, get in your vehicles or get in the bus, do whatever you can.
Yeah.
Go somewhere like before. Go down in the back, go down in Dark Hole and St. Joseph, go somewhere in St. Andrew,
The
go to some
hole got light down there. Got light.
right? It's a
Yeah, they got like Mary. His name that old.
beautiful place. But you got go to these places, go in St. Lucie, come up in St. Philip, go
Yeah.
to St. Michael, Christchurch, wherever. Just get out and go across. The regathering was the perfect opportunity for us to move people across the island, to get them to become more familiar with them, more familiar with the environment and with the beauty of it. It hurts my heart when oftentimes you hear people saying, "Oh man, this body went here and they tell me how beautiful Barbados was, but I never went to the Animal Flower Cave yet. I never went to site." This is wrong. Everything that tourists come to this country and do, all of us should endeavor to at least try it once for ourselves, so
Correct.
that we
Correct.
Agree.
Agreed. I agree. Yes.
of where it is that we live. Now, if you leave Bridgetown, right, and you go and you are going to St. John, you come through or there we call it, you come up there Gun Hill and come up.
Yeah. St.
Right?
George.
Right.
St.
When
George.
you pass through, you're gonna pass the Barbados Water Authority place there. Can't remember the name place. But before you get to Lemon Harbor, there's a little turn off that would take you down into St. George.
A
If
little
you
turn
ever,
off that would take you into St. George.
yeah, take you deeper into St. George. If you ever take that little turn off, right? Down in there, you where they got bills and bills and bills of hay that people, are putting up together. I don't know if they're exporting them or they're just transporting them to other places.
Right.
This has got to be one of the most beautiful spots on the island.
Is it in St. George or St. Thomas?
St. George. Is it St. George?
This place Lionel from St. Thomas.
This is so beautiful, right? No, I mean, and then you go to St. Thomas, you can find beauty. There are so many spots in Barbados. I mean, the first time I went down into Wexford Hall Gully itself to see the guys with the off-road vehicles doing their stuff. I mean, how many people in Barbados know that the work that these guys are doing in the gully with those monster trucks type things? I mean, all of this is happening in Barbados. I keep hearing people in Barbados saying, "Oh, Barbados is boring. They ain't got nothing to do." They got people who be up in St. John, at Bath, kayaking. They got people over on the South Coast, kite surfing and all sorts of things. Get out and get involved in things. Then you begin to ask
if you're talking on tourism or culture.
It's culture, but it's culture because it's beach culture, which we don't pay much attention to. But I mean, this is a country where you could, if you really want to, you could get fresh fish in Barbados every possible day if you want,
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things that I notice as I move around all the time. I mean, I was in St. Lucie. I had a chance to sample some. But it was ginger and cucumber juice from a lady. No sugar added, nothing. Just fantastic. And all of these things are happening.
It was your first time, John? It was your first time having it?
No.
First time having it, John?
Not at all. But just talking about the different things that I've been able to sample across the other pepper sauce. If you come in my house now, I got 4 different brands of pepper sauce from across this island that are just beyond your wildest imagination. Fantastic product. Who knows?
Right.
These are small businesses all across the island that we need to be able to out sample, support. And I'm telling you, the day that we begin to do these things, in fact, I'm even planning a men's forum now for the youngsters up here in my constituency, where I want to put, as soon as the things open back up, carry them to different places, carry the places like Nicholas Abbey, carry them to the same animal flower cave, carry them to get them out of the environment as people start
Morgan Lewis Mill.
You cannot allow people to just have a small idea of the world. You have to be able to pick them up. And I'm hoping that once we start these, that we could then move it from not only touring Barbados, that the next step then would be, well, let's go to another island, see how our brothers and sisters live in another place and make new friends. Because I personally have friends. I have friends in almost every Caribbean island, almost everyone. Just from being able as an entertainer to move across and to also go back as just myself for vacations and just spend time with people. It is important because it changes your viewpoint about
it definitely does.
What you don't what is possible. But you see, when you allow people to just stay in a small confines of where they are comfortable, they don't grow. And I always say this to people: You grow when you are most uncomfortable because you have to confront the thing that makes you uncomfortable. That's how you grow. And so we need to be able to be, that's what I want Crop Over to do. I want Crop Over to grow. I want the band leaders to feel uncomfortable. I want everybody to feel uncomfortable with Crop Over as it is, and then put in the work, and you will see how it will grow.
You know, Philip said that this morning. You grow when you are most uncomfortable. I'm wondering
It
if
is
he got
true.
that quote from you.
But think you did. We probably study the same books and read the same authors
No,
and
he said
but it's
someone
true.
told him that. Someone told him that. And well, he spoke of you as well. Most of our guests
we-
who have been here has really and truly only spoke positive words on the John King. We had TC, we had
Yeah.
Adrian Clark, all of them. And to even have you with us this evening really
but
and truly is heartwarming because everything they said about you emulates how you spoke with us this evening because you are a humble, loving individual who
I've not
who 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 really and truly give of service.
Correct,
That's
I'll tell
correct,
you that.
that's
correct.
that's
This
how
is
you
John.
came across because
I,
This is John
Alamayo and I
King.
has heard all of them, all of
I,
them.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thank
Every time
I
yeah.
they
thank all
turn,
This
of
they
is
you
say
because
John King,
Mary,
John
Mary,
King.
Mary, Mary. This is John
I
King, not Johnny King. This
I,
is
Yeah,
John
yeah,
King, not
yeah.
Johnny King.
of course you know the thing is right. The thing is this. I love look. Let me be real honest with you. I love people. I really do.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
people to death. But
yeah,
as my friends, and they will tell you, if I got to tell you that you're wrong or I disagree, I will tell you it in the most passionate way.
yes,
Sometimes it may get to some language that is not as nice as I would like it to be, depending on how serious this thing gets. But that's
yes,
just who I am. But at the end
yes.
of the day, I
Mhm.
might I I might have the worst quarrel with you on the earth now. But two
Yes,
seconds later, that's the end of that. We going and do whatever it is that we were supposed to be doing from the beginning and move on. If you choose to be
yes,
vexed with
Correct,
me,
correct.
that's fine. When you finish being
yes,
vexed with me and you good to talk to me again, I good to talk to you, and that's how it is. The problem that a lot of people have is that one, some people feel that they always have to be right. I don't.
yes, yes,
That's one thing that I
yes.
learned. Like
Sometimes
when
you
we
gotta be
talk
wrong. Yeah.
about the sabbatical, that was good
Mhm.
for me because it was like
Mhm.
that. Always gotta be right.
Mhm.
Always gotta be right. And even if you thought the most ridiculous thing just to make a point to be right, that was me. But I've
Mhm.
learned as time goes on, I don't
Mhm.
have to be right all the time because I'm certainly not going to be wrong all the time. So you
Yes.
have to be able to balance. You have to be able to balance it out, and you have to be
Mhm.
able, even if people are pointing out something to you and you don't want to show it in front of them, you must be man or woman enough that when you are away from them, you spend some time to think about it and make a
Mhm.
decision. And if you
Yes.
feel that you need to go back to them and say, you know what, I apologize for X, Y, Z, you are right. Or, you know,
Yes.
I I am going to try to make the adjustment or whatever it is, then you just do it. There's nothing to be lost in it. You gain all the time
Mhm.
because then people appreciate you more, people respect
Mhm.
you more, and there's only good things that can come out of things like that. The thing I always tell people is to get rid of the ego. The ego is the greatest, I would say, the greatest detriment that man has. The
Yeah.
ego. And you know,
Yeah.
even when we had the cabinet switches
Mhm.
and I moved up into the prime minister's office and not being in charge of a ministry itself. You know, it has so many people online, on telephone, on just meeting me in the road. Man, John, what to do to you? That is unfair, and the blah blah blah, and do this and do the next and do it. And I always said to them, but stop for a minute, man. Stop for a minute. Here I am. This is the first time that I have ever been a politician. So there are certain things that I might not know where politics is concerned. First time I ever be a minister, there are things that I learn, but these times call for a lot more. What's the word I'm looking for? People who guidance from people who have been in it, who understand the systems and all the other things in a lot better. Now I'm a lot more or fair with a lot of things at this stage than I would have been first month or first 6 months coming into any of the offices. But life is this continuous learning process. And so
Yes.
if you feel that you're too big to learn, or you're too big to listen, or you're too big to step back in order to improve yourself to go forward even better, then always find yourself at loggerheads with everybody and everything. And you know the person that gets hurt the most by it all is you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because it doesn't
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it doesn't
yeah,
ego doesn't allow you to grow. It keeps you in a particular place stuck, and you don't grow. And
Well.
it's important that people understand those things. And look, I always tell people all the time. I might be. Some people tell me I'm a dreamer. I'm so idealistic and the blah 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 and the blah blah blah. Where I part ways with a lot of people is that a lot of people use the idea of sin to say. So people will say things like this: "Man is a sinful being," and blah 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 and the blah blah blah. I choose to look at it a different way. I choose to look at it that man is inherently good, but he does bad things based on his understanding. If he understood more of his nature as not just a physical being, but himself as a spiritual being, and his connection to the supreme being, regardless of how you view it or how you see it, people must be grounded in some sort of spiritual understanding. It is
Yeah.
when people have no spiritual grounding at all that they make and continue to make a certain type of mistake over and over and over and over
over
and
and
over
over.
because
Yes.
there's nothing to ground them, you know.
Yes.
And so until we can get people to understand that there are more than just the wants of the flesh and blood, and that it is more than riches, it is more than economies, it is more than votes, it is more, life is more than all of these things, but that we have a duty whilst we are here on this journey to see we could improve not only ourselves but the people that we come into contact with. It means then that life has two things in it. One, you are a student, and two, you are a teacher.
Yes.
And if you work from that standpoint, you cannot go wrong because you're always willing to learn and you're always willing to pass on that which you have learned. Simple.
Wow. I think those are powerful, powerful words from the Honorable John A. King, MP. I mean, you have really filled the void for us this evening in listening to what you have said. And I really enjoyed the journey, your musical journey, and the fact
Thank
that we
you.
mixed it all up with your political journey as well, because it's a side that a lot of people don't understand, may not even know. I would have known you from, I don't even want to let everybody
Way
know,
back.
from way back. So for me, it has been such a pleasure. And we had a comment come up here in our comments box. Somebody said, I can't wait for crop over because of how you really drew it in their mind what the expectation should be when they come to Barbados. Those things are things that people are looking for. They're looking forward to those things. But the other part that I really and truly enjoyed is to hear not only your passion as an entertainer, because I think that's still in you personally,
Yeah, yeah.
but a passion that you are presently serving the people of Barbados. You're being of servitude and not now, but have always been of service from your musical journey to your political life today. And we want to note as most of our guests who come on, we always let you know, for us, you are our star, you are a legend, and we like to remember you while you are here and not after, because if we are not afforded the opportunity to have chats like this with you, you know, people are going to say, "Oh, I knew John King. I saw him on TV. I saw him in the paper," but they don't get to understand the individual. They don't get to hear
Correct,
or
correct, correct.
see or learn.
Mhm.
So for us, we thank you for your certitude to Barbados and pray that you continue on your path of servitude, because we can see and hear that your passion is not only for music, it's not only for culture, but for the people of Barbados. Honorable John King, we love you, we thank you, we will continue to pray for you and follow you on your journey, be it political or musically inclined. We want to tell the folks out there who have been watching, we obviously gave you an extra because we had him last week and we didn't get to speak with him, and we truly and really enjoyed the conversation. And I'm sure I'm going to call him by our name. John will be more than welcome to come back on the show. I'm sure he enjoyed the time that he's been given to chat with us. And we want you to remember, keeping it real with Mary and Lionel. YouTube, subscribe, like, click the notification button so that anytime we're on again, you will be able to join us, because we have people all over from Canada, from the UK, from the US who are following
Right,
our
right,
show, and they
Good.
really appreciate the content that we offer. We afford our guests the opportunity, to be themselves. And as we're our namesake, we keep it real.
true. So don't
So
forget,
And Devin,
Mr. King. Don't forget, Mr. King. You got
yeah,
put in a plug for the show. Wherever you go, you can put in a plug
of
for the
course.
show and
Yeah,
advertise.
without a doubt.
Say that you had a fantastic time
Of,
on the show.
without
You enjoyed the
yes,
conversation.
yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what we
I,
like. We
I
like our
thoroughly did.
guests to,
I thoroughly did.
Don't forget these small.
yes.
Don't forget these small man. Really small men. Don't
He would
Don't forget
never
us.
do that. He would
Not
never.
at
I know
all.
John.
You know,
I
you're in
have
the
to do. I
ministry.
have to
You're
do.
next
I
to
have.
me. He right
I,
next to me. He rubbing shoulders with me. So we gonna tell him don't forget us on me.
So,
I, that's
folks,
not. I'm not a deputy prime minister here.
no,
I
no,
know
no,
that.
no, no. Of
But I
course,
just
we're
want to
missing.
thank you guys. I want to thank you
We're
though.
Yes. Go ahead. We're missing Lionel because
Right.
he has the
No, I
internet
just
problem over his side. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I see Lionel's thing is great, but I just wanted to say thank you very much for having me. This was really enjoyable for me. I always like to get the opportunity to talk to people, because one of the things that I've learned in my life, being in the limelight for so long, um,
Yes.
people have a lot of misconceptions about you, especially if you're like I probably look very serious when I'm on the road, and because I'm always focused on what I gotta go and do and who I gotta meet
Yes.
and all these kind of things. And I
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes hear people accusing me of being so standoffish and all these kind of things. But that's the furthest thing. Anybody who really knows me knows that that's the furthest thing from me. But I
So
always
true.
have one thing that I always try to tell people: respect each other.
Yes.
That's the most important thing.
Yes.
So thank you
So
guys
true.
and respect.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's good.
And
It's good. It's good to have the conversation. The conversation, because I see you touched on certain things there, boy. That I was telling myself. Not there are very few people in Barbados tend to touch on those things when those topics and issues come up. They skirt all around, or they tend to leave the forum. You know
that's
what I mean?
right.
But
Just remember,
it's good
Alamayo,
that
we are keeping it
it's good
real.
that you have somebody who is willing to talk about these different things and put
Okay.
their point of view up there. You know what I mean?
We have to.
And
Yes.
yes, this forum is an
Yeah.
accepting forum, and we're able to talk about whatever and hash out whatever the case may be. But as I say, it's good to
Yes.
see that. It's good to see that your passion and the way how you view things is different, because as I say, you just see John King on the TV, you see him as a man who decides, you know what, the BLP can win us landslide, so let me just hook on
Mm,
here, become an MP.
mm, mm.
That type of, you understand, the way how
Yeah,
you are
yeah,
portrayed and seen out there. But now
Mm-hmm.
you actually get a conversation with the person and you realize, well, hey, but really and truly, that really John King, you know. This is the actual John King, the one who
Yeah.
passionate about this, who care about this, who
Yes.
sees it this way. And then you come to realize, oh, but me and John King seeing it the same way. You understand?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but when
Yes.
you just seeing John King on the TV or wherever he is, or you see him on the street or whatever, you don't get that
Yeah.
same sense of
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying? As he say, you know, standoffish or whatever the case may be, but you don't get that
Mm-hmm.
same sense, that same feel. You understand?
Yes.
It-
Yes.
So
It's I tell you,
Yes.
Alamayu, it's one of the things I learned from early. There was an old saying: "Never judge the book by the cover. You
Let's
gotta
cover.
get inside, and then you
Yeah.
correct.
understand what it. Same thing for human
Well said,
beings. If
Mr.
you
King.
just see a
That's
person
Well
right.
on
said.
the
Well said.
road,
Well
Yeah.
said.
you
Yeah.
make a judgment about them. You could be
Yeah.
so wrong. You know, I mean, even in my own life, you know,
Mm-hmm.
having had, and sorry, God, leave you with it. Having had the experience that I would have had earlier dealing
Mm-hmm.
with white people,
Mm-hmm.
it would have put a certain thing in my head about,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, you take a brush and you brush everybody with one brush.
Mm-hmm.
A different thing,
Mm-hmm.
a different approach, and a different person to come into my life to actually put me in a place where you understand that colors don't matter. It's about what's in the heart and what's in the head.
Yes.
And I always tell people, it doesn't matter if a fella go on two old shoes or a long beard and unkempt or all them kind of things. Don't look at them things. You
Yeah.
have to, if you really want to know the person, you have to come and know the person. The only way you're gonna know the person is by
It's true.
interacting with them, engaging with them.
Of
That's the
course.
only way.
And you gotta be sure about yourself. You gotta be sure
Yes.
about
Of
yourself.
course,
But
of course you gotta be
I
sure,
remember
but
the first song. I remember the first song I heard outside of Calypso that John King would have sung was Think Before You Answer. Are you sure? That was the
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
first song. I was like, when I heard that song, I was like, wait, John King sing other things besides Calypso. Like all you're hearing is just all these Calypso tunes from
Mr.
every
Alamayu,
time you
that's
hear about
another
John King.
show.
Everything
That's
else,
another.
John King is just Calypso. So I'm just
I
saying though, the meaning, the message in that song, even in that message, think before you
yes.
answer, are you sure? You
yeah,
Yes.
understand? You gotta be sure about yourself. And
of
from
course.
having this conversation, we can see that John King is sure about who he is. There had a
Yes.
point in time where he was not so sure of that. So he took some time and take a step back and come back. But
Yes.
now we can see that John King is clearly sure of who John King is, no matter what everybody else say in the paper, in the media, Instagram, Facebook, wherever.
Yes.
John King is John King. And
All
John King
You
right.
will
better
always be
believe
John King, whether
We
he's
it. You
can
better believe it.
MP or
we
entertainer.
can we can continue backstage, but we gotta tell the folks bye. Thank you for being
Bye,
with us this evening. Bye.
bye, guys.
Remain backstage, and we'll
Enjoy.
see you guys next week Monday with another special guest. Bye bye.
Bye.